Hey everyone, just before we get started on this final installment of our four-part series on college rugby, just a reminder, seeing as we're talking a lot about NCAA and NIRA rugby, if you are interested in playing in an NCAA rugby program, or somebody you coach is interested, or your kid is interested, then just check out a free webinar that I'm part of with Next Phase Rugby and USA Youth and High School, July 17th, 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. The link is on the screen as well. And Next Phase Rugby head Greg Stelluti and I will be joined by Ashley Potvin Fulford out of the University of New England, Michelle Reed from Sacred Heart University, and Becky Carlson from Quinnipiac University to talk about navigating your way onto an NCAA team and why that's different from going to a club program. So please check it out. It's free and it's a great resource. So now on with the video.
Now, when you're talking about the best teams, that you're going to go to a high performance team, that you're going to get into a daily training environment, that you're going to be hopefully tracked to a national team, then you're talking about D1 Elite and NIRA. Now, NIRA isn't all the way through that, because there's Division 1, Division 2, Division 3. Division 2 is pretty small. Division 3 is pretty small. So I'm not really going to worry too much about the divisions, partly because in NIRA, just like in NCAA in general, you can play across division. You will see that in NIRA, and you should, because Davenport, a Division 2 school, so they play as Division 2, are very strong at the moment, and will be playing Division 1 teams. D1 Elite is basically school or heavily alumni-supported teams that have a tradition of being very good. Central Washington was considered, sort of a NIRA team, except that they're all on the other side of the country from the rest of NIRA. NIRA is essentially northeast, mid-Atlantic area with a little toe being dipped into the Midwest. We'll talk about that in a second. And BYU is school-supported in the sense that they are a club team, but it's called, when you're a club team at BYU, there's only a very specific group of club teams, and they are given a much bigger budget than regular club teams. It doesn't mean the same thing at BYU. They had to actually apply and be acknowledged and things like that, and actually for so many years BYU is playing as women's Cougar Rugby because they couldn't use the term BYU. But they're BYU now, so they're very strong, right? Grand Canyon, a school-supported team that is still working its way up, and I think will get to that D1 Elite level where they won't be tracked into D1 playoffs. So that's those three. Life University, almost the original school-supported team, not NCAA, NAIA. Life University is NAIA. So that makes things different for them. But they have a fully school-supported program. Penn State, like Stanford, was one of the teams that was every year, when there was just a Division 1 final for everybody, they were in it almost every year. When D1 Elite was formed, they won D1 Elite. But they've struggled last couple of years. And now I think are in flux. Their head coach, Kate Daly, has taken an assistant coach position at Dartmouth. So there's a question there about what they're doing, I think. I have a question. I got questions. So I think there is a question there, because I've got it. And there it is. It's a question. So we're going to talk about Lindenwood in a second. But those teams are very good, produce national team players, play kind of a weird season, because really they all make the playoffs, and really, really hard to get on that first 15. But people who want to be on the national team, a lot of them gravitate to those programs because they feel that puts them in the best position to be on the national team or be a professional or semi-professional. But I do think D1 Elite is in flux on the East. Why? Because Lindenwood has moved to NCAA. Lindenwood University did this. This was the choice, right? This was a great story in the sense that Lindenwood University made the decision. There was very little, it wasn't like they sat down with the coaching staff, Lindenwood women's coaching staff, and said, hey, what do you think? I mean, it was a done deal by the time those guys were read into the whole deal. Lindenwood will be in NIRA. They're not playing a NIRA schedule so much this year because the schedule is kind of set. But they will be playing NIRA teams. And that's really cool for a number of reasons. We'll put a pin in that. We'll revisit that after we just tell you what NIRA is.
NIRA is made up of NCAA varsity programs, and the only thing that doesn't make women's rugby a quote-unquote full NCAA sport is the number of programs. Once a certain threshold is made, the NCAA starts to pay for playoffs and a few other things, and until that happens, NIRA runs it all. The competition is packed with very prestigious institutions across 3 divisions, with D1 being the strongest. However, you'd be hard-pressed to find teams outside of NIRA or D1 Elite that are better than D2 Davenport or D3 Bowdoin, just for 2 examples. These are also daily training environments, professionally run, and a good place for a highly motivated student-athlete. But I can't really stress this enough. These are very different from club programs.
The most consistently strong standard of rugby in the women's game. So now, having said that, Life and Lindenwood are probably stronger, at least last year, because Lindenwood played the defending champs Dartmouth and beat them. It was a really good game, 30-15, no conversions, but 30 really exciting, fantastic, love that. Would Lindenwood have been able to beat Dartmouth? Yeah. Harvard? Yeah, I think so. And Life just edged Lindenwood in the final. Do you want to lead? So, we're talking, they're pretty close. But it's not just a club team with the school being nice to them. It's more than that. The coaches are paid. The coaches follow NCAA rules. The school follows NCAA rules. All of these things are very, very important to understand what we're dealing with here. Lindenwood's move to NIRA can be massive for a couple of reasons. One is, of course, it's going to change the competitive balance. Lindenwood immediately becomes a contender, and I think that is that's fantastic. I think that the biggest impact for the Lindenwood program, so I understand, is that they're going to get more academic support for their students, which they're going to love. Tutoring, things like that. That's important. But could Lindenwood's joining be a harbinger of a westward movement? And I think it can be, because there are teams that might be reticent about joining NIRA because they have to travel so far for games. Clearly, to me, Adrian moved out of NIRA because they didn't have a lot of teams to play. Had they known that Lindenwood was coming in, would they have stayed? Would we run into the, oh my goodness, we're going to play Lindenwood, we're going to lose issue? Or would they have said, there's another team we can play? I hope they would think the second. But I've got ideas about this. Like in the whole Midwest, could Adrian come back? Could Aquinas come back into that sphere? So then Lindenwood, Adrian, Aquinas, Davenport would easily play each other. No problem. What about Southern Nazarene, right? A school-supported program that really should now be seriously considering going full NCAA for their women's program. It helps Title IX. Don't forget that. Because they're in Oklahoma. They are not a big drive. And remember, the further west you get, the more tolerant everybody is of long drives. There's less traffic. There's more bigger distances, but less traffic. Can Southern Nazarene jump in with Lindenwood? What about McKendree? McKendree, who already has a men's program in a conference with Lindenwood and Davenport and Adrian. Why don't you just recreate that among the women? I don't see much of an obstacle to that, to be honest. I don't see much of an obstacle. It just would make sense to me to start to inch everybody west. Even Walsh University, the former Notre Dame college, should be thinking about this. Because what else are they doing? If they're a school-supported program, what else are they doing? Are they able to, are they not getting to the top of the heap at NCR because they're just not good enough? Like they're never going to be good enough? Or are they not getting to the top of NCR because they can't recruit certain players because they're not in NIRA? Think about this in a bigger format. I think the push should be now for this. From students on campus and alumni, and they should be pushing hard to get to the NCAA point, because that's where, everyone's like, don't remember 2033, the Women's World Cup coming, we've got to be ready. Okay, well, how about daily training environments and varsity programs for college-age players? Stanford, we return back to Stanford. You can't tell me that there aren't alumni who have influence, right? We have, now they don't want to be all alone, but Central Washington's already there. And Central Washington is like 3 checked boxes from being NCAA, fully NCAA. So what if you did that? What if you said Stanford, Central Washington, and then you lean on Cal, and you lean on UCLA? Why couldn't you? Because you go in there and you say, there's a demand for it. The alumni demand for it. Title IX. It's a Title IX bonanza. You get a roster of 35 players. Honestly, you can count it as 70 if you want to say where we play 15s and then we play 7s, and those are 2 different sports. And you count them twice. Shouldn't, but everybody does that, right? Indoor track, outdoor track, cross country, you can count them 3 times. But the other thing is startup costs are minimal. You probably have posts on your field, right? Kit, some tackle bags, cleats for everybody maybe, some rugby balls, right? As clubs and as pickup organizations, we do this all the time. You could do that. So that's kind of it's a little bit different how I've been talking about this, because I was sort of like a call to action within the women's game. Because I think it's easy to be complacent. And I think it's easy to look around and say, hey, look, I'm a pretty good rugby player. I'm not that great. I'm okay, and I get to play. And if this becomes varsity, then I'm out of a job. But you create a legacy. What happens in the future when you say, I helped make that great? UCLA wins an NCAA championship, and you say, hey, I was one of the players who made that happen. How about that? How about hanging your hat on that rather than that you started 12 times instead of 15? But that's where, so if you're looking for college rugby and you want to say, I want to play the very, very best, it is the NCAA teams. It is the D1 elite teams. D1 elite is in flux. One of the D1 elite teams is moving to NCAA. That's going to be important. But always, 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 no matter what, look at who they're playing. Not just who the team is, but who they're playing and how often they're playing. And really, if you want to get better and better and better, you need to be playing more than what a lot of these teams do. So you either have to find playing opportunities in select sides and some other things, or you find the program that plays a lot. Well, that's what we've got when we talk about women's collegiate rugby. I think we're actually at a key. Is it a turning point, a tipping point, or a launch point? I think that Lindenwood's move to NIRA is massive, can be massive. If those of you that I mentioned, and I know that there are more, they have to happen with a little bit of like a call to arms from each campus, and a little bit of cooperation and taking a leap. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later.